For Buckeyes Now on Sports Illustrated, I'm Brendan Gulick along with Andrew Lind, and it is a gorgeous day in Columbus, and frankly, it was a really fun afternoon. We just finished up the 2021 spring game, and Andrew, for as much as you can learn from a glorified spring practice in front of about 20,000 fans, I thought this was a really productive day for the Buckeyes. I thought Ohio State largely stayed healthy. That's probably the primary goal in an environment like this. And I'm also quite confident that we don't know who the starting quarterback's going to be, but that the Buckeyes offensively have a boatload of talent coming back and that this could be one of the better teams in the country again next fall.
Yeah, definitely. And it was cool to see all three quarterbacks go, head to head. Obviously, they had to go against a defense that was limited. Starters wasn't tackling and things like that. But at the same time, they each showed flashes of potential as to why they were recruited by Ohio State in the first place.
Yeah, why don't we start with the quarterback battle? Because I think that's kind of what everybody wants to talk about. There's a lot riding on this decision, right? You've had a great run here of form the last few years. And obviously, whenever you turn the keys of the car over to the next guy, you got to find a way to get it right. And I think the good news for the Buckeyes is that they certainly seem to have three pretty darn good options in Jack Miller, in C.J. Stroud, and in Kyle McCord. I don't know if it's totally splitting hairs. I also don't want to overreact, say that one guy definitely won or definitely lost the job today. I think I was most impressed with Kyle McCord. I think he and CJ, to me, are probably the top two. Probably still too early to tell, one way or the other for sure from where I want to stand come fall. But, man, I really liked what I saw from Kyle McCord today.
Yeah, I agree with that. I actually just said as much on Twitter as well, that if I was Ryan Day or Corey Dennis, I would probably be looking to start the game at Minnesota with McCord under center. I mean, obviously there's more at play there. He's younger. You could have him 3 years versus potentially Stroud or Miller for only 2. So there's a little bit more to it than just how they performed today. But in the limited times that I've seen McCord, Stroud, and Miller play, including practice the other day, I thought that McCord was every bit as accurate and maybe even had a stronger arm than the other two.
Oh, geez, Kyle McCord's first throw in Ohio Stadium in a non-practice setting. I realize today is a practice setting, but in a live game situation, he rips a 55-yard bomb down the seam that Garrett Wilson goes up and makes a great catch on. It was kind of okay, hello. You certainly hear about it. You've seen it on highlight tapes, but to actually go out and do it for the first time was great. And, of course, C.J. Stroud threw another good ball down to Chris Olave as well. The Buckeye offense looked a lot of ways like it typically has.
Definitely. And, the very next pass he threw, he overshot his receiver too. So it's definitely something that's not lacking from McCord is arm strength, just more about getting the experience, getting the reps. And so ultimately, that's what the quarterback battle is going to come down to. Last year's quarterbacks didn't get very many reps behind Justin Fields just because of the situation. So then you're going to basically say coming into this spring and into the fall that they're almost even. You're going to look at it and you're going to see redshirt freshmen versus true freshmen. But at the same time, they're really on an even playing field at this point.
Yeah, and frankly, Kyle having one quote-unquote less year coming in, I've never thought that he was that far behind in this race. Now, it doesn't mean he's going to win it, right? But I think, to your point, CJ and Jack last year, I think they played 18 plays and didn't throw a pass. So, you've kind of got three guys that are all on the same foot. The good news is no matter the –
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say the good news is no matter which of the three wins the job, the talent around them is ridiculous, especially in the receiver room. Olave and Wilson both catch deep passes today and continue to lead that room. But Emeka Egbuka looked awesome. Marvin Harrison flashed nicely. Jackson Smith and Jigba, another really good day. I mean, that room in particular is pretty jaw-dropping with the amount of talent they've got.
Well, and that's kind of something that plays into that as well. It's almost like no matter who you have at quarterback, I could go out there and be the quarterback this year and to have those 5 wide receivers plus Julian Fleming, who didn't even play for because he was dealing with his own injury, or offseason shoulder surgery. Anybody going out there to have those receivers, you really can't go wrong.
I totally agree. How about in the running back room, but in the pass game? The way I saw it today, I was pleasantly surprised to see the way the running backs were so involved with the pass game today, especially Crowley and Travion Henderson.
And part of that to me be just the fact that they weren't tackling, just kind of wrapping up inside. You can't really get as many, full on reps with running between the tackles. So a good way to feature them is to get them outside, let them kind of shake a couple guys and go from there. But from what we've seen, especially with Henderson, Steele Chambers had some really good plays too. I know he had the touchdown that was a run, obviously, but the fact that there was 6 touchdowns and only one of them was a run kind of speaks to that, what they were looking to show off today.
Yeah, totally agree with that. Thought the offensive line largely did a good job. Thought the tight end room looked fine. A lot of times the tight end room, we've heard those guys say repeatedly that they take more pride in making good blocks than they do coming up with big catches. And I thought they did a good job today. The most notable guy on the other side of the ball, I think, was probably freshman Jack Sawyer. He was a monster this afternoon. And boy, if that's a sign of good things to come, that could be fun to watch.
And I talked about that in my defensive observations as well. For him to come in and have 4 sacks, be explosive off the ball, be in the quarterback's faces, it just kind of goes to tell you that once it's game time, going to be in that rotation, and there's no reason that he shouldn't be.
I think the Buckeye linebacker room is obviously a little bit banged up right now, but I wasn't displeased with what I saw from them either. Especially Tommy Eichenberg. Thought he played well, even in coverage. The idea of a potential Taraja Mitchell, Dallas Gant, Tommy Eichenberg type room, Cody Simon, I kind of like the way that room is trending.
Well, and then there's the X factor of Craig Young, too. He's been practicing with the safety all spring, but lined up at linebacker, had himself a good pass breakup down the field on Mitch Rossi. He's kind of in that position where they've been talking about a bullet position for years now, ever since the new staff came in. We haven't really seen it played its full potential, but he's kind of somebody who, even when they were recruiting him, going back to how he performed at a one-day camp over the summer when he got an offer, he really showed a versatility that nobody else had. So that's something that really could factor in there as well. And then there's always the possibility of adding a transfer too to make up for the fact that the linebackers room is pretty thin.
And I to your point on Simon there, man, I love his size. I'm sorry, not Simon, on Young. Love his size. He's got a chance to be a real game wrecker. And the coverage play he made was really impressive, considering his size. You get him on the field. I kind of like where the Silver Bullets are at with that.
And there was a lot of schools that were actually recruiting him as a wide receiver, so it shouldn't surprise anybody to see him have athleticism down the field in coverage like that.
What'd you think of the defensive back room as a whole?
It's still coming along. It's kind of one of those things where, you go from having Jeff Okudah, Damon Arnett, Sean Wade, to then Sean Wade, being kind of the only guy at that point. And it's very difficult too with Cameron Brown and Sevyn Banks also sidelined for the spring is you really have a bunch of guys in there who are trying to make an impression on the coaching staff and say, see, this is what I can offer. Let's see if, I can fit in here somehow. And somebody that really stood out to me, obviously, was Ryan Watts with the interception on the opening drive of the game.
Yeah, I agree. And, especially in a situation where you're not tackling to the ground, I think it's kind of hard unless you make an interception or have a great pass breakup. It's kind of hard to really stand out as a defensive back in a situation like this. But, all in all, I thought the Buckeye DBs did a decent job here this afternoon. And, this is more of an offensive showcase than a defensive one.
Well, and again, when you're going up against those receivers, it's very difficult, 5-star receiver all over the field. It's very difficult for somebody to shine on defense.
Yeah, no doubt. I don't know if I want to call it a glaring error. But, boy, if there was one thing that stood out in a negative light today, it's probably special teams. A couple missed field goals. The second half kickoff that went out of bounds against nobody. I don't know. I don't want to read too much into it. It's you don't overreact or underreact to any one thing. I'm sure that throughout the course of the spring, the special teams have not been a massive problem. But you certainly don't want to get into the habit of missing fields for sure.
Well, and it was interesting too, the kickoffs with them doing it with nobody else on the field except for the returner and the kicker. It's a very different situation. It's not like he's going out there and getting hyped up with all the other gunners and those kind of things, and then kicking it away to go down and actually try to tackle somebody. Like, you're going through the motions at that point, and it might be a little bit different. But then for the kicking game, to miss 2 field goals, that's going to be a very important thing, especially, with young quarterbacks, no matter who it is. You get to the red zone, if you're not able to convert because it's a new situation, you're going to need those 3 points.
So, largely a good day. I think the final score was 27-14, if that matters to you, in a game that was played with a clock in the first half and basically was just a couple of series in the second half. All in all, a good afternoon. It's nice to see the band. It was nice to see 20,000 people in a stadium that obviously, seats 5 times that, but certainly was good to have a little juice back in the atmosphere and on a day that was, pretty quintessential spring, right? Kind of started a little chilly this morning, warmed up a bit as we all went along. In a lot of ways felt like, the kind of day you'd want to have for a spring game. And, hope is eternal this time of year. And I think the Buckeyes definitely showed signs that this could be another really good fall.
Definitely. And the only thing that I kind of thought was a bit different about this one was the names of the teams too. Obviously you had Brutus and Buckeye rather than Scarlet and Gray. And that, that's something from years ago that they've been doing. So I was kind of surprised to see that change here late in the week. But aside from that, I mean, it felt like you said, the quintessential spring game.
So all in all, good work from the Buckeyes here this afternoon. Puts a wrap on 5 weeks worth of spring practice that, frankly, it kind of arrived quickly. I guess when you play into the second week of January, spring ball jumps on you kind of fast. And just as fast as it started, it's now over. And Ohio State will have a chance to kind of regroup just a little bit. And, they'll kind of jump into summer workouts here and get geared up and ready to rock here for the fall. So I believe we're going to hear from Ryan Day at some point this week. That hasn't been confirmed, but I think the athletic communications folks were suggesting that we were hoping to hear from Coach Day to kind of put a bow on things at the end of spring. Might be Thursday or Friday this week, but we'll certainly cover that. And as always, if you're interested in following the Buckeyes pretty regularly, as I'm sure most of you are, we do that as best we can here, Buckeyes Now and Sports Illustrated. We've got lots of content on our YouTube channel here. We'll live stream every press conference during the week and as the season approaches, and then, of course, during game weeks themselves. And we'll have lots of content for you on BuckeyesNow.com. So your instant analysis of today's spring contest. Ohio State with a nice showing offensively. The quarterbacks looked good. Jackson Smith and Jigba in particular on the offensive end. He and Emeka Egbuka really shined. Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson did their thing as well. And the Buckeyes with a few fireworks to get back into a good rhythm, and certainly nice to have some fans cheering him on along the way as well. Andrew Lind, I'm Brendan Gulick. Look forward to seeing you again real soon here, Buckeyes Now on SI. Thanks for joining us.